video I'll be showing you how to make a Swiss roll. So to start with, the first thing you need to do is preheat your oven to 220 degrees. Now to make a Swiss roll you will need a mixer, a guard, a bowl and a whisk. Now all of your equipment needs to be grease free. If there's grease on your equipment, then this breaks down the egg mixture. So to start with, get some sugar, put it into a tray, pop this into the oven so it's nice and warm. Leave it in for about 5 minutes or so just to warm up your sugar. The second thing you need to do is get a bowl of warm water and place your egg into the warm water. Now your egg needs to come up to 21 degrees, so using your temperature probe, ensure that your egg mixture comes up to 21 degrees. So as soon as it reaches 21 degrees, take your egg out of the warm water. Once you've got your egg in the bowl, pop it onto the scales and 10 grams of sugar into your egg. So place your egg and sugar onto the mixer, click it in either side, pop your whisk on, make sure that your whisk is clean, pop on the guard, and you will now need to mix this on speed 1 to start with, and then you can increase it to speed 2. While you're waiting for the egg and sugar mix to double in size and to get to ribbon stage, you can start sieving your baking powder and flour together. So put your baking powder in the flour and then you need to sieve it 3 times. Waiting for your egg and sugar mixture, you will need to take the tray and you will need to line it. So you need to make sure that you've got a half tray and not a 3/4 tray. So take this piece of silicone paper, put that in half, get some relief spray, spray all over the tray and around the sides. Careful not to use too much. Place the sheet of silicone on top. Make sure you're not getting any of the grease on the top of the paper. And you will need to cut strips to sit along the side of the tray. This ensures that when it bakes, you'll be able to flip it out a lot easier. So line your tray, all 4 sides. Make sure that your strips aren't too long. Make sure your mix is on speed 2 and leave it to aerate. So to check it's at ribbon stage, take it off the mixer, okay? And you should be able to write cat, and then by the time you get to the T, the C should just be disappearing. So C, A, T, and the C is just disappearing. So now we are at ribbon stage. We need to gently fold in the flour. So ensure your hands are clean and you have no grease on them. You want to gently fold in the flour to the egg mixture. Okay. We gently fold it in with our hands. Keep folding the flour in. Try not to knock out any air, or you'll end up with a flat Swiss roll. But just gently feel for the lumps of flour at the bottom, shake your hand, and you will now need to scrape your mixture into the half tray that has been lined with silicone paper. So gently place it into the tray. You will also need a cranked palette knife to spread your mixture around the tray. Using your cranked palette knife, spread this gently into the corners, make sure it's even all the way around. Gently push it. Try not to knock out any air. Now you've evened out your Swiss roll, scrape down the cranked palette knife. You will now need to bake your Swiss roll for 12 to 15 minutes at 220 degrees. Ensure that your oven is at 220 degrees. If it's a little bit too high, just open the oven and wait for it to come down slightly. Place your Swiss roll into the oven. And set your time to 12 minutes. Press the green button to start. Make sure that the bottom heat is at 3 and the top heat is at 3 and 220 degrees. Once your sponge has baked between 10 to 12 minutes, check to see where it's baked. You can do this by running your hand across the sponge. If it springs back, then it's baked. So it should be nice light in colour. Allow this to cool now before you roll it. Once you've allowed your sponge to cool down for 5 to 10 minutes, you'll be able to finish it then. So, to start with, take a sugar and sprinkle it onto a sheet of silicone paper. Make sure that the table's not wet underneath when you put the silicone paper on top. Take your sponge and lift, and you want to flip it over. So flip it onto the sheet of silicone paper. Once you've done that, then peel off the silicone paper. Gently peel it off. And if you have kept the aeration in the mix, you should have a lovely thick sponge. If you've knocked the air out too much, then that's when it becomes flat. So now take your 500 grams of raspberry jam. Make sure you agitate the jam so there's no lumps, and you'll need to spread it across the Swiss roll. So the best way to spread the jam is to use your cranked palette knife again. Now you want to start rolling, so you want to roll it towards you. It's really important that you catch this first bit and you tuck it right in to ensure you get a nice roll. So spend time tucking in that first bit, and then you can start to roll. And make sure you're really tucking in that sponge. Use your paper and start to roll. And gently roll it using your paper. Using a serrated knife, so it's the jagged edge knife, you will now need to cut your Swiss roll. So you need a tape measure, and you need to cut it to 8 inches. Each Swiss roll should be 8 inches. So what you can do, you can trim the edges off. Make sure you clean your knife down every time you cut. And take your measuring tape and cut 8 inches. So in half gently back and forth with your serrated knife. Once you've cut them to 8 inches each, you should have a lovely Swiss roll with a tight spiral.